I'm going to as well. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. Like I mentioned, you may not have been on yet. I'm nervous. I'm so grateful for the panelists that have agreed to come and share a bit about their experience. The reason I'm nervous, I think, is I just have a lot to say and I don't want to talk a lot. So that puts me in a bad position. I have a lot I want to say because I love this profession so much. It is the most fulfilling work if I can ever imagine. I remember being a kid and seeing adults around me complain about going to work. And I remember thinking like, that sucks. I don't want to grow up and hate going to work. Wouldn't it be cool if we could go to work and like be as excited about Monday as you are about Saturday? And I honest to God feel that way about my work. And I just love it so much. It's so fulfilling. And it's allowed me to, see people change and see so much happen for other people, and to also work from home, have my husband at home with our kids, to make a great living at this, to have the most flexibility, I think, of any career there is. And as if that wasn't good enough, I truly believe that this understanding and this work that we're doing is changing the world. I mean, there is absolutely no question in my mind that the way that we view human beings and what is possible for us, and how we see our way out of issues that we get caught up in, is radically changing. And we're at the forefront of that. Those of us who are sharing this understanding and just looking at things in a non-traditional way and seeing the impact that it has with people, seeing it firsthand all the time, all over the place, we're doing so much. And especially right now in the world when there's just so much noise and so much divisiveness at times. And, it feels amazing to be able to put stuff out that is helpful, that isn't just adding to the noise, that isn't just listen to me. I do feel like that sometimes because I feel like I put a lot of stuff out and I assume people are getting really sick of me out there, but I keep getting feedback that they aren't, and that it's helpful and that it's different from everything else out there. And that is it's so huge, and so huge for us to remember, because I'm guessing most of you are here because you have been impacted by this. And in our little corner of the world, at times, it can look like, oh, well, everybody knows this, or, I don't have anything special to share. And I'll talk about that as we go through. But I just want to say, like, what we as change coaches, as people who work in this new paradigm, what we are doing and sharing in the world is completely different still from how 95% of the world is doing it. And that gives us an enormous leg up in any way you can possibly imagine when it comes to helping people with this. So anyway, so I'm very passionate about it. And because I can be so gushy about it, and I don't want to just give you that side of things, I did want to invite some change coaches to come speak with you a little bit. And I'll just ask each of them a question or two, because I know they have sort of a unique take on it. Some of them didn't even know if they wanted to be a coach or share this formally, and they just thought the training sounded amazing, and now they're coaching and helping people. Others have been trained coaches for quite a while, and they can speak to how coming from this understanding is different. So they're all here for a reason. And so after I say a bit, I'll let them say a little bit, and then I want to open it to questions. And I really want to, have you guys ask anything that's on your mind. And hopefully most of our 90 minutes together are spent on that, on your questions. So let me go ahead and introduce the panelists, and I'll just have you guys kind of unmute and say hi. So Claire, where's Claire? Hold on,
Hiya.
Hi, Claire.
Hi everyone. Hi, Amy.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. So Claire, I won't say a lot about each of you now, but Claire is a hairstylist. Never really thought, I don't think, that you would be a coach at any point.
No.
But she was really drawn to this and is just incredible at it. Kind of, surprise to Claire. She's like, whoa, I can do this. And this is really helping people. So yeah, so I'll have you say a little bit more, but
Okay.
thanks
Yes.
for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bill and Connie.
Hi. Hi. Great to be here, Amy.
Yes, thank you so much. Bill and Connie, you might recognize them from around. They've been on the podcast. Many of the coaches have, and Bill records some of the Little School of Big Change calls. But they have been working with people mostly around food and nutrition, but they've also had so much spiritual training and experience. And it's been so fun in the last year or two since I've known them to see how this really simple paradigm has kind of, just gone beneath their work and made it even better and opened up, I think, a lot of doors for them. So they can kind of speak from that perspective when I let them speak. So thank you guys. Thanks for being here. Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. I think you're still muted, but that's okay. Yeah. That's all right. We'll figure it out.
I'll try again. Hi, everyone.
Hey. So good to see you. Thank you
Good
so
to see
much for
you.
being here. Jennifer is another one who is brand new and, kind of just worked in education and thought, I don't know if I can do this. I remember, some people come in really confident. Some people come in like, why am I doing this? I'm not sure, but I'm really called toward it. And that's kind of where Jennifer was. And I've just been so impressed with how she's just taken it and run with it, and having clients, just doing such good coaching with people, having them refer other people without a website, without a bunch of fancy stuff yet, just by where you're pointing. So that's awesome. So we'll talk to you more in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Drawer.
Hi.
Hi, Drawer. So Drawer also is someone who's been in the coaching field, the coaching world for a while, been through a lot of training, some kind of in this understanding, some not quite as much. But that's why I wanted Drawer to come. He's been in this world for a long time, and he really sees, and he works in this world from a business stance as well. So he really kind of sees, I think, the differences in different approaches and different programs. And I know you can speak a lot to this way of coaching.
Yeah, thank you. And honored to be here. And yeah, would love to share whatever people want around that. But yeah, was doing this year was one of the best things that happened to me. Like looking back, I even lost the sense that we just started it in January. It looks like it's been like several years.
I know.
But it just hit me that, yeah, it was a great year.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, and then finally, Maria.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations on being on this first call. This is such an exciting community to be a part of, and I'm sure you can already feel how this understanding brings people together.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maria is another one who had been coaching already, but I love just seeing what opened up, and she knew, you're coming from this understanding to some degree already. But during our time together, the 6 months together, like so much got clarified for her and in her business, and just really fun to see. So I know you can answer some questions if people have them later. Cool, thank you. Okay, so let's see. So when I really reflect on what I most wanted to share with all of you in the little bit of time I'm giving myself to share, it's really two things. It's the impact that we can have for people. And when I say that, I mean it in coaching in general. I think there's so much good happening, so many ways that we can support people. But for me, and I've trained as a psychologist, I've trained as a coach years ago in many different philosophies and ways of doing coaching. There's absolutely nothing that comes anywhere close to pointing people toward their true essence, who we really are beyond our experience, and along the way helping them see how their experience works, because it's like that 1-2 punch. It's like, oh, here's who you really are, but here's what's in the way, and let's clear that up. Let's see who you think you are, your thoughts and your feelings and your habits and your anxiety, And when we see through that, we naturally open up to what's possible and who we really are beyond it. So that is just so special. So I really want to say a bit about the impact. And again, I realize I'm probably preaching to the choir in a lot of cases, because I think many of you are here because you felt that impact. The second thing is that you can do this if you want to. And when I say this, I mean coaching professionally, making an excellent living at it, if that's what you choose to do, or just immersing in this and seeing life in a super simple way and being able to naturally just spread it and share it with the people around you, because that's what happens. And I see a lot of people, I hear a lot of people say things like, yeah, I've been really impacted by this, but oh, I could never share it. I don't know how to articulate it. And of course you don't. I don't either, until I immerse and open my mouth and something comes out. And it truly, in many ways, is that simple. So it doesn't ever look like it's easy to articulate and talk about, but you can do it. No, without any question, you can do it. A lot of people, just people I'm hearing, there's a lot of stories about, coaches that are floundering and not doing that well, and that it's hard to get your business up and running and all of that. And I think that's for sure true for a lot of people, but it doesn't have to be. And I just want you to know that it is not the truth for everyone whatsoever. And these two things kind of marry each other. The impact is what makes it such that when we're coming from this understanding, when we're pointing people toward what's really possible, it works. Like the understanding does so much of the heavy lifting. It does so much of the work for us. So if you're thinking for any reason, I can't do this, I don't have a degree, I don't know how to talk about it right, I'm not a business person, I don't think I could ever explain it, I just want you to know, I think most people have those thoughts. And you probably know, my friend, this is where those thoughts are coming from, that truly you absolutely can do this. Anyone can, if it's really what you want to do. So just on the impact, I mean, like I mentioned, we as change coaches, as people talking from within this paradigm, we are looking at human beings and what they're up against in a way that is totally different than almost anyone or anything else out there. And we're seeing the essence of a human being, what is possible for us, what we're truly made of. And we're also seeing a whole lot about our moment to moment experience. So, when someone comes with a relationship issue and says, help me fix my relationship, or they're caught up in a habit and they say, I don't know how to stop doing this thing, or they want to make some business goal, or they want to lose weight or whatever. I don't know how to do those things. I don't know how to fix someone else's marriage. You don't either. None of us know that. If they knew it, they'd be doing it, right? We don't know how to do that stuff. We don't know how to make someone lose weight. We don't know how to get someone to their goals. But what we know is the design, the universal design of all human beings. And what I know when I'm talking with people, no matter who they are, no matter what they're up against, is that this is a 100% healthy person that has everything they need, and they are very caught up in experience moving through them. And that experience moving through them is big for every one of us. Our doubts, our worries, our habits, our fear, it is like what we become so attuned to that it's all we can see until we are shown around it. And when we see around it, it's like, oh, I was thinking I could never share this. I could never be a coach. I could never have a business doing this. But what if that's thought? And when we just start to hold all that a little bit more loosely, it naturally, because we're designed for this, it naturally kind of unhooks us from it in a sense. And we get to feel new thought. We get to feel like health and hope and resilience and all this new stuff that's behind it. So this understanding, this way of working with people, there is nothing we need to fix in them. There is nothing we need to help them change. Like, we don't go about making the change. Change happens, but we don't make it happen. We don't have to teach them to manage anything. We don't have to teach them to cope with anything. We don't have to know if a CEO comes to you and says, my business is, going down the tubes and I'm going to have to lay 100 people off. We don't have to know their business. We don't have to know how to save it. All we have to know is the person in front of me is a human being that has the same design as every human being, and what they're up against in this moment. Like, there's circumstances, but what is creating their suffering in this very moment is experience, thought moving through them that looks absolutely true and real. And when we can get in there and just help them see that, then so much starts to happen. So much of the impact that comes from this, it's amazing because it's so deep, meaning it lasts. It's not like coming in this was my life as a coach for years, coming in with one issue. Let me help you see that. Let's reframe it. Let's look at it in a new way. Then what do you know? You come in next week with just a slightly different issue, but it's really the same issue. One day you hate your cat, the next day you hate your brother. Like, this is the same issue here. We go deeper than that. We're not putting Band-Aids and trying to make little outside fixes, So the impact we have from this understanding, it lasts for people, and they'll come because they have a habit, and then there's a tragedy in their lives 6 months later or 10 years later, and they can navigate that tragedy so much better because what we've shown them is who they are and how their experience works. So it is not only amazing for them, and again, I'm very biased in this, but I'll say far superior to anything else I think exists in terms of helping people. It's not only that, but it gets to be incredibly simple for us. It's not always easy. It can be very challenging at times, and I think a very fun way most of the times, but it's simple. It's simple. It's like, again, anybody. I think about our little School of Big Change call yesterday with a bunch of people, and everybody kind of has their own separate thing. And one woman is just distraught about how she feels like her body's aging, and she's really upset about how her body looks. And the next woman has a young adult daughter that she can't control, that's kind of spinning out. And the next person feels depressed. And I would sit and worry back in the day about getting into the weeds of all those specifics. And I don't know that. And how can I help that? And it just isn't like that anymore. And it doesn't have to be. And that's what's so beautiful about this, is we just get to speak right to the essence of what's happening for people and help so many people in so many ways. So part of kind of how, there's a lot of ways in which working in this way sort of feels like cheating in a sense. Part of, like, when I say, you can do this, we can all come to do this, the way we do what I just described for people is primarily that we see it ourselves. The more clearly we see things, the more you can sit in front of anyone in the world and know, here's a person that has everything they need. They just literally just think they don't. And you can see the impersonal nature of their thinking. And, the more that happens, the more you just see, wow, I really can do this. It's incredibly simple in that way. And the more that we all have these conversations and are in this dance with people and help them see this, the more we benefit. And that's where it's one of the many ways that this work feels like cheating, because, like, when we sit with someone and we try to help them see, oh, this is what's really going on and here's what's really available to you, we benefit from that. And part of becoming really good and skillful at being able to help people is, again, like, that's 95% of it, is that we come to see really clearly and simply what's going on. And the more we see clearly and simply what's going on for other people, we just get to feel it ourselves. So there are skills, sort of. There are things we look at around listening, around, being with another person, about how we listen beyond their words. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. But so much of it is our own personal immersion and us waking up to how things work. and the metaphor I always use is if you want to teach Spanish to someone, be fluent in Spanish. It's not going to be that hard. Yeah, you still have to know how to get someone to, listen and read the book, and you figure out some exercises to practice with them. But if you're fluent in Spanish, it's not going to be that hard. If you're not fluent in Spanish, it's going to be horrible. So we work on our fluency in how humans work, which again, I can't think of a cooler thing to be fluent in, to spend our time and energy on, is seeing more about what's under the hood, what's possible and what's available for all people. So there really are no like personality skill. No, somebody said to me last week, like, oh, I'm not sure I can do this because I don't have like an outgoing personality, or because of all these other things. And I just want to have you hear that there are so many ways that we do this. And truly what it is just a human to human conversation. I know the coaches are probably so sick of me saying that because we just say it over and over. It's just a conversation between two human beings. And it just so happens that one of the human beings, you know quite a bit about how life works, about how these humans work, and when we can kind of see it in that way and just move through it. And it's just this back and forth dance where we don't need all the answers. We just get to feel into this space and help them see things differently. It just, again, it's so fulfilling. It's so simple. And it has enormous impact. And the truths that we're pointing to, the understanding that we're pointing to, that's what does all the work. Because when you point someone towards something that just deeply resonates, they want to hear more. When someone's suffering and you point them toward a bunch of stuff to do, okay, do these 5 things, tap here, think this, change that, and they're already suffering, that's hard. It's hard. No one's going to want to listen to that or hear that. When we're speaking human to human to someone and we see their health for them, they can't see it in that moment, but we see it for them and they hear that. So I think about, starting my business. I did my initial coach training in 2007. I want to say that was before the internet, but there was an internet, but it wasn't what it is today. I didn't invent the internet or anything, but it does feel like it was that long ago. It's crazy. But even back then, I didn't really have this understanding, but I saw something deeper. Even back in those days, all it really took was sharing what I'd seen, having being impacted by something and wanting to share it, not to sell something, not to convince anyone of anything, but truly just for the experience of sharing, hey, there's another truth here. Like, your experience isn't as it seems. This is super exciting. Do you want to hear about this? Because if you do, come on, I have some stuff to show you. Talking about how I move through my habit. And the thing is, like, in my head, it would always sound like, oh, everyone knows this. This isn't special. It's not different. But honestly, where we're coming from in this, it is special and it is different. So it takes so little. Because even right now today, even though a lot of change has happened in the world, and I think people are waking up to seeing that we aren't broken and we don't just need to medicate everything in the world, and that maybe things are okay and we're just misunderstanding them. People are waking up to that in huge ways. At the same time, again, like, that's not the norm. So when we go out and say something that speaks right to the truth of this, it has impact. People hear it and they want to hear more. And it goes so far for us and our ability to share this and to be able to do it again in any way we want to do it. There is nothing special about me in terms of having a business at this that I love so much and that's done really well. I have no business background. Yes, I have a psychology degree. It has not done a thing for me. And I know maybe it has. Maybe the actual degree hasn't done anything for me. What I learned in graduate school hasn't done anything for me. I hear this all the time. So I'll just throw it out there. Like, people say, oh, it's because you have letters after your name that your business grew. I can show you a lot of coaches, however we want to measure success. I can show you a lot of people out there that have a lot lot wider reach and a lot more money than I do, and they don't have letters after their name. So there's no way that that's it. You know, I just truly believe that when any of us have been touched by something and you just want to share it with people, it's just going to take off on its own in that way. And there's a lot of stuff you learn along the way, a lot of stuff you have to do. You know, I'm never the smartest person in the room, but I am very consistent. So I've been putting out a newsletter since 2008 every single Thursday. I've been, you know, making a podcast every single week for a couple of years. Like, there's little things like that we can do that support people right away. And then they say, oh my gosh, this person's already helped me. Of course I want to hear more. Of course I would hire them. They're already helping me and I haven't paid them anything yet. That's just my little tangent about how anyone can grow a business in this without any special business knowledge or anything like that. And again, it's all down to this understanding as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this does all the hard work and all the heavy lifting. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the training. I'm just thinking about the order of this. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my change coach training, and then I'm going to have the panelists speak a bit because they can speak kind of to their experience in that, as well as anything else that you guys want to hear them speak about. I think that's probably the way to do it. So my change coach training program is a 6-month training. The next one starts in January. So it's a January to May program. And it's centered around 3 3-day trainings. They will be online. We'll see what happens by May, but I know for sure that January, likely March, will be all online. There's always been an option for it to be either way, so we'll just do it all online to start. But we gather for 3 days, 3 different times, and go really deep into what every single human being is made of, like what we have available to us at our disposal, and what all of our problems are made of. Meaning every single time a person is suffering, it doesn't mean there's not a hard circumstance in their life, but every single time we're suffering, we are feeling our own experience moving through us, that we're feeling our own limited thinking in some way. And when we don't have to fix that for people, but when we see the nature of thought, and people see the nature of thought, they kind of wake up to what's going on and they are able to see around it. So in these 3 3-day trainings, so much of what all of this training is you seeing this as deeply and simply and clearly as you possibly can. Because again, when you're fluent in Spanish, it's not that hard to be a Spanish teacher. So that's what we're doing. We're making everyone fluent. And we do that by all kinds of ways. We do that by hanging out and talking. We do that by coaching each other. You go through the Little School of Big Change through this, and the whole 6 months is deepening your own understanding and your own grounding. We also do a ton of coaching, because when I first led this program, I had a survey that I sent out. I still have it, that I sent out, and I want to know, like, what's your concern? Like, what do you most want? What are you most worried about? And almost everyone says, I want to feel confident having these conversations. I know there's something in this, but I don't know if I can do it. I don't have the confidence. So I thought, all right, well, let's just make you confident. How do we do that? Let's just do it like crazy. Let's just do it and do it and do it and do it in a super fun way with a ton of support, where it's, everyone's just in it together, trying it out together. And what do you know, when you've coached a lot over 6 months in a nice little supportive container, you feel okay doing it in the end. So in the beginning, it starts off with watching me do a lot of coaching. Our first 3-day training, I do full sessions, we debrief them. And this is helping your grounding and your understanding. And it's also kind of seeing the whole coaching process. And then in the second and third 3-day trainings, we kind of flip it a little bit. I'll still do some coaching, but you guys are doing more of the coaching, all the students, and again, with support and feedback. And you get to see people coached. You get to coach people around a variety of things. And I try to bring in people that don't have a sense of this understanding, because that's who most of our clients in the world will be. It's just people who, they don't care about, where thought comes from. They just have a problem that they want help with. So I bring in people like that and around a variety of issues. So you get to kind of see that all play out. So our our 9 days that we're together are really big, really fun, super fun. And that's where a lot of the training happens. In between those, we have other stuff. So it's time-wise, it's roughly every other week we have something. And what we have is maybe a webinar. So I bring in colleagues of mine, other practitioners that coach from this perspective. So you can learn from them. We might just have group calls where we're catching up with each other and seeing how your coaching's going and everything. And then you also go through the Little School of Big Change in the spring, North America, US and Europe spring. I know there's people from Australia and New Zealand here, but in March, I'll lead that course. And that's where I have people in, again, who don't know anything about this and they just need support with something. And so they come through that 6-week course. And what we do is as coaches, the coaches go through that course as well. So it's deepening your grounding. Again, many of the coaches have been through that course already, but you get to go through it again, like experience whole new things that the next time around. And you also get to go through it as a coach. So we have some calls as coaches and we debrief it. You get to see how I set that course up. If you ever want to do something like that yourself, we talk about the students in a very loving and kind way. We say, hey, what do you think about this person? Like, where would you have gone here? It's an amazing kind of training tool and learning experience because we have this pool of people that are just waking up to this. So that's part of what we do in between. There's more. I don't know what I'm forgetting. We have a private forum. I do a business workshop. So there's a little bit of business stuff that comes up in it for helping you start your business. And then at the end, you get the opportunity to be certified. And then there's some stuff that comes on the heels of that. We have a coaches directory. I'm doing quarterly calls with the coaches. They stay in touch. Some of them have gotten together and created mastermind groups and done things. So it truly is a small group and it's a community. It's a real community that forms around this that's ongoing far beyond the 6 months. So that's that. What am I forgetting? Let me go to the coaches and have them say a little bit, just a little bit each. I'll ask you each like a question or two, and you can share anything you want. And then we'll open it up for questions and anything that you all want to hear about. I'm proud of myself. It's only 3:35, and I said a lot in 30 minutes. Okay. So Claire, let's start with you since we started with you before. So Claire and Jennifer, remember, were the two who were totally brand new to this. And I chose people with a variety of experience because I'm guessing that's who's here on the webinar. Some of you might be thinking, I've never done this before. I never even thought I would be a coach. What am I thinking? Others of you have been working professionally for a long time, so you'll get to hear a little bit from all those. So Claire, maybe tell us a little bit, about how it was for you, like what made you want to learn all this, and then sort of how was it for you that now it feels like something you can do and that you love doing?
So I came across this understanding about 5 years ago, I guess, and like most people, it completely changed my world. And I did that kind of like trying to share it with people, but as I said the words, it just came out as blah blah blah. And I just, I felt like shouting it from the rooftops, but just couldn't, and it's really frustrating. So as you said, I'm a hairdresser, so I was trying to share it with clients, and they'd just be like, well, so what is it? When you just know people are just not getting it. So and also I've got 3 children who are sort of coming up to teenage years, and was desperate to share it with them too. And then I saw the advert for your training, and I just literally paid the deposit without even looking into it or anything. It's just one of those things that kind of unfolded as it was meant to. And and then I went on to do it, and I just can't believe the difference. I'm sharing it, I'm coaching it, and I wouldn't have even been able to do this before. So it's literally changed my life completely.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And I love, there was another hairdresser in our group too. I love just having that captive audience. You have the color on their hair, they're not going anywhere. And you, you get to like, but that's what you guys were doing initially, is like, just kind of stepping into this a little bit. And it was so fun to just see how a little bit more practice, I think, like a little bit more support and try it this way, and just doing it has led you from just, trying to toss something out to a hairdressing client to having hour-long sessions with real clients and just seeing such a change.
Yeah, because I mean, it was brilliant for practicing, as you said, like with the deep listening and things, like really listening to my clients, and even my relationship now with my hairdressing clients has changed just because I kind of understand where they're coming from all the time. It's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much, Claire. So you guys, again, if you want to ask Claire a specific question, she'll hang on a little bit when we get to that point. Let's see. Bill and Connie. Bill and Connie are two people, but I put them together as one. Not really, but Bill and Connie. So yeah, let me ask you guys, maybe say a little bit about how you work with people around food and nutrition and all of that. And because I know you've told me this many times, like how opening up to this understanding, how it really sort of changed the impact you were able to have around those things.
So I'll start. For years, I was helping people improve their health with food and lose weight naturally. And the piece that was always missing was the mental, emotional piece. And so people would have great results, and then often they'd go back to old lifestyle patterns. And then another thing happened, Amy, that was so great. I had this experience of a very still mind. And I saw actually that this busy mind was not where truth was. And I wanted to know how to share that with people, how to share what I'd seen and how it could serve others. And when I heard you on a webinar talk about what you were living, I saw, oh my gosh, there's the answer. She's taking people's difficulty and showing them through that who they truly are, and how what they perceive as their difficulty is really the doorway to more of the richness of life. Yeah. So I was hooked. I wanted to learn more. And so we'd play you with all the different things that you offered in our house. And Bill got really interested. Do you want to share?
Oh, sure. So, yeah, I guess what I would say about how it's impacted our business is that we always had success with people being able to restore their health, because the body's designed to restore health if you give it what it needs. But it was the sustainability piece. It was the ability for people to really shift diet and lifestyle in a way that they would continue to do it. And that was a challenge. We tried a lot of different things, helping them with meditation techniques and
biofeedback.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. But when we learned this, started learning about the principles, we began to see how to make sustainable change, how people could actually change habits, because it wasn't about white knuckling it. Anybody can eat a certain diet for 6 weeks or so and make a difference. But how do you really incorporate that into your life so you have those results forever? And helping people begin to understand that it's not the food that's the problem, it's how I'm relating to it. Yeah. How I'm relating to the circumstances in my life. And just, when we were teaching before this understanding, we teach a 6-week course, and one of the modules was around the mental emotional piece, because we could see what a big role that played in people's habits and how they ate. We were throwing everything at them and nothing really stuck. But
that's true.
What was interesting is that everybody would be pretty alert about all the information about the food and physiology and how this works. But that module on the mental emotional, they were, I wouldn't say on the edge of their seat, but people want to know how life works.
Yeah.
When we're in pain, when things aren't working, we know there's just something off. We know there's something missing. And so we kept trying to find what it was. And since we've been incorporating the principles in with the modules that we do, that's made all the difference. People really can't believe how sustainable it is. So many people come to us with, dieting since they were teenagers. And so that's like maybe 40, 50 years for some of these people. And that yo-yo effect is it's not sustainable. And they can't believe that they could eat this way by preference instead of because I have to.
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful. They just open to the ease of living from their own wisdom when they see what was kind of getting in the way of their making healthy choices to begin with.
And one thing I want to share, Amy, I have a real deep food background. So I was looking too, how can I marry that in a way that really gives people lasting change? And I just share that because others on the call, if you already have a deep background in something, it's so easy to marry this understanding and then make really wonderful shifts for people.
I love that. That's exactly it. And like the difference between the biofeedback and the food and this and that, when we know what's behind it versus kind of tossing a bunch of stuff out, because that stuff does work sometimes for sure, right? But yes, I love that you said that. I mean, to see what's beneath it and behind it is everything. Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys.
Sure.
Jennifer. So Jennifer, I know you can tell me, but I think, like you hadn't really thought too much like, oh, I might be a coach someday. You had a career, were kind of doing your own thing, but you were really impacted by this yourself. And again, like I said earlier, I'm just so blown away by how just as you've only been at this for 7 or 8 months at the most now. And that was part of our training time. Like just how you're helping people with anxiety. So yeah, how was it for you kind of starting off in something like this, not even sure if this is what you would want to do?
Yeah, so I think, when I started out, like you said, I had a really big passion for the understanding. And I also saw how it deeply impacted me and my experience. So because of those two things combining, I just knew that it was something that I at least wanted to get curious around, and see what would happen around it. I knew that taking the training, if anything, it didn't mean necessarily that, yeah, I had to become a coach or that it would be right for me, but I knew that it would not only provide another personal understanding and seeing experience for myself, but it would open up that area around for me to see if I actually did want to do something like this. So, which was unusual for me because, the way I usually go about things or used to go about things was I had to feel it was right and, consider all my options ahead of time, make sure I was doing the right thing and that it would be something that would be useful to me later. But I know coming through this understanding, you find yourself relaxing into your experience more and just being more open to other possibilities, and going with the flow of things a little bit more. So that's kind of fun to be able to look at life that way. So when I entered into the training, I honestly, I didn't have that much hope that I would do really well and be that successful in it. Like I said, I had a lot of, I think, more so confidence in my abilities and level of success around it. But in the back of my mind, I thought maybe being a coach someday is something that I would love to do. And I just wasn't sure. So I took the leap, I jumped in. I went with the whole who knows phrase and kind of just went with that to see where it took me. And I just was blown away by how much my understanding through this new paradigm deepened and how much more I was seeing around that. And in turn, I realized I was quite capable of sharing this with others and that it was something that I really, really enjoyed doing and could see myself doing. So once I finally took the leap and, dove into it a little bit, I started getting referrals. My clientele started picking up pretty organically. Like Amy shared earlier, I didn't have a website. I'm not even on social media or anything like that. So I really did not put myself out there at all. So I was really shocked to see that so soon I had 4 or 5 clients already off the bat. And a lot of them came, like I said, organically. So a lot of them were through like client referrals and things like that I had with some of my other clients, because they really saw some changes in themselves. And then their friends and family started seeing those changes, and they would ask them, what are you doing? What are you doing? I want in. So I started getting these referrals and people wanting to talk with me and learn more about this understanding, and things just started to thrive from there. And of course, I'm human, and I'm sure all the other coaches would agree that we have our moments of, nervousness. And for me, wondering if I'm saying the right thing or if I'm going to know what to say and things like that. But I think, that's normal. It's part of the process. And what matters most is seeing that you don't need to have an attachment to that. It doesn't mean that you're not good at it. It doesn't mean that you won't be good at it. It sometimes is helpful to kind of have that in the background, at least for me. So yeah, I was really shocked with how things unfolded for me, and obviously very pleased. And yeah, I hope that answers your question well.
Yeah, no, that's so helpful. And I love, what I give everyone feedback on some of their sessions, and I've gotten to listen to quite a few of Jennifer's sessions, and there have been recorded sessions where, you're like, I was nervous, or and the thing is, the beauty in this is when we're just speaking to something that's so true, no one hears your nervousness. We might feel it, but that's what I love about what you shared, is it's like, you don't feel top of the world confident all the time. You don't have all the bells and whistles website, but you are helping people so much. And it's, it in some ways, a lot of that is a testament to you taking that leap and seeing what you've seen. But it's just to see this understanding does so much. You just keep sticking with it, and it's doing so much for people.
Exactly.
And for you.
I'd like to point out too how, in terms of what I was saying about not maybe needing to get yourself out there as much and things like that, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't create a website and all those things. What I'm saying is it's okay to relax around it and maybe not know, and just do what feels right to you in the moment, in terms of, what kind of website, who you want to help you with it, do it on your own, all that stuff. It's very open and casual. It's your thing, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. And it's okay to relax into it and not get everything right and not have everything planned, because I noticed when I kind of let life take the reins and sit back a little bit, things just started to happen for me. So that's kind of nice to notice and see as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks. I can relate to so much of what Jennifer was saying. I remember when I first did my initial coach training too, I was so drawn toward it, and my mind just could not compute. There was nothing to compute. My mind was like, you just left graduate school. You have, 6 figures of student loans, and now that you're not even going to work in that career. How is this going to pay off? Is it going to pay off? All of that. And I just remember looking at the page, looking at the offering over and over, and my husband just coming over and saying, what are you doing? Just do it. Like, you're trying to compute something that's not computable right now. Look at how excited you are. Look at how many times you've refreshed that page. Look at how much this will be have a personal impact, even if you don't ever work as a coach, and he always does that for me, because I still can overthink investments. He's always the one that's like, look how you feel, just do it. And it's just so, yeah, it's cool. I know that's such a universal thing in some ways. Many people have it. And it's cool to see, like, wow, that one little leap, man, it opened up a lot of doors, and it does for many of us. Okay, Drawer. So, Drawer, maybe you could speak a bit about whatever you want, but I know you have some training and other backgrounds, other types of coaching, as well as some, a lot of familiarity with the principles. So yeah, maybe it'd be helpful to kind of say a bit about your experience of this training and kind of how it helped you compared to some of the other things.
So yeah, I mean, I've been doing consulting for 27 years, but for the last decade, I started to really shift my business from consulting to coaching. And I've been certified as a professional soul-centered coach in a program that cost triple of your program. And I was very happy with that and really did big impact on my business. But through that program, I was exposed to the principles as a little video that they showed us. And I started about 5 years ago to kind of like look more into that. And it was really not, I wasn't that much into that, but it seemed very interesting. And through those 5 years, I went through a year that was extremely challenging on the health level. I had to operate both my eyes, almost lost my eye vision. I entertained what I'm going to do. Can I be a coach? All of that. And then I read your book and been pointed to your school. And having this understanding and your specific approach around my health challenge was definitely life-changing for me. Probably the most impactful thing in my healing. So, started to follow what you do, been working with you. I really got to be drawn more and more to your specific approach around the principles. And at the same time, I did several other practitioner training programs that were great. And I did not attain to do your program, but I always was drawn, how do I get that flavor of Amy, that unconditional positive regard in the heartish of being? And then also started to see connections. Like in my mind, it was kind of separated. Oh, this is really good for my personal life. I don't know how that's going to help my business. Really, I never saw how I incorporate the principles into my consulting and coaching. And then listening to your change coach conversations, there was something like everyone I listened to, I was like, there's something here that I want, that she's saying that and kind of like you said, I just got up one day and I emailed you and I said, I want to do the program. I didn't know exactly why, it wasn't to have another certification on my wall. But I really came to the program from a feeling place. It felt like it's good, it's right to do it. I knew there's something that I want. I didn't know exactly what it was. And what I can say about the training and how it impacted my business and my coaching before and after is like, first, I think other people said, but I'm going to say it again. It's the simplest approach I've ever seen, even within other trainings of the principle. The way you teach it, it's so simple and yet so powerfully profound that it blew me away. It blew me away in the first 3 days that we just sat there. And I was like, wow. I love simplicity, and the simplicity with the impact that I could see just in that weekend and the energy of the other coaches was really profound. And then I can't really say how, I don't really know how it impacted my business because it was so subtle. It's not that I can say, oh, I had this technique and now suddenly I started to do that. It kind of was hovering about all of the other skills and trainings that I got, all of what we know from the past. I do think it helps, when it's comes from wisdom to bring it up. So I initially did not notice how my coaching changed this year. And it really came from the outside when someone who's a very highly a practitioner, highly held practitioner in my hand, called me one day and he says, I want you to see one of my clients. And I was like, well, why? He's like, I don't know. I think you could really help her. And I'm like, okay, and I had a session of her and she told me, I would like to keep working with you and not with him. So I called him and I'm like, it's your client. I just fought one conversation. He's like, I don't care, whatever's best for her. And I was kind of questioning him and her, what was that she saw more value than sitting with me than someone who's, I don't know, you have 40 years of experience over me. And in that conversation, I kind of connected it back to your training. It was very, very subtle of how I pointed her instead of like coaching her. And she, in one session, saw something that like, I want to keep doing that. So to me, that's the best, thing that comes from the outside. It comes from a referral. I didn't even know what it was. I was curious what that was. And so that's like one anecdote that happened, through this year. But on the bigger level, I was really, especially this year, when we started the program, we did not know that there would be a pandemic. So this year was so challenging for so many of my clients and friends and family around their businesses, which is most of my clients. And my business grew this year. I helped a lot of clients with challenging situations, like some clients that have zero thing of this understanding were practically working about how they're closing the business because of COVID. And after 2 weeks, we flipped to the opportunities that their business have in COVID, what they need to change, what certification they need to get for it's a service businesses, to a degree that their business flipped to an opportunity that they saw through that. So we went from a thing, how do we shut down our business in a dignified way, to, hey, there's an opportunity here. I don't know how that happened. I did not tell them what it is. It was in a conversation. Hey, what can we? The option is to close the business. And they brought up that option. Maybe we'll do that. So I really think it helped me to help so many people around the changes that this year brought up. And the main thing for me, it was easier. I love my work. I always loved it, but sometimes I would get exhausted at the end of the day. So what you speak to the degree that it could be fun, even when we're helping people with dire situations.
Yeah.
And it could be light. And I became lighter this year, and it improved my relationship. I helped my family. And again, it's that switch in my mind. I don't need to do consulting. I don't need to do coaching. I'm just having conversations with people.
Yeah.
And I know many other people say it, but you exemplify it, Amy, for me. So it led to a point that, I'm having calls with my sister, and she also says, hey, I have a friend who's going for a divorce. Would you talk with her? And I'm like, well, that's not what I do. Why do you want me to talk with her? I don't know. I think you can help her. Yeah, I do that. So that little thing also rhymes up to what Jennifer and Ava were saying. The referrals are, to me, the proof. I don't know how I change. I just see it after the matter when I'm looking back at this year. Yeah. So, regardless to say, I really highly recommend it. And I did probably about 7 certificate trainings in my life. And I do hold yours as the most impactful in the timing that I did it and the best value. I did ones that were way more expensive in that regard. So I very grateful to that I've done it. I love the community of the coaches, as you said. And it's also another thing that blew me away, how much I learned through the training with people who came with zero experience.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, wow. I learned from this lady more than Amy. So it's beautiful. I really like that feeling, that approach, and the outcome of that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love, when we say it all the time in the training, it truly is just a conversation between two human beings. And when we strip away, am I a coach? Am I a consultant? I help with this. I can't help with that. Is this person's client my client? Like none of that. That's all just extra stuff, right? And we all think it, but when we just are there in this dance, we talk about it being a dance where we don't know anything. We know what's true of the person we're sitting in front of. We know what their problems are made of. They're made of thought. But we don't know where to go, what to say, but we're just truly there in that moment, in that back and forth dance. I think so much happens. And exactly like Dror was saying, that's what gives us the experience sometimes of it being so simple. It almost feels like we're cheating. It almost feels like well, I'm not doing anything. I'm just talking with you and showing you what I've seen, what I see in our conversation, because again, we're fluent in Spanish now. It's not hard. And so it's just, I love that so much. I love simplicity too. And when people say it's become easier and more simple, and we benefit so much. I was thinking about this earlier too. If you go to a mechanic to fix your car, the mechanic spends an hour fixing your car. Their car doesn't get fixed. Only yours does. If you go get your teeth cleaned, the hygienist's teeth don't get cleaner. Only yours do. But when I spend an hour with a client, I benefit from that so much. I see more, I feel amazing because I have to get myself out of the way to truly be there with that person. There's not much out there, that that works like that, where we get filled up and then we pass it on to our families, and we spread it everywhere just by helping people. So that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Dror. Okay, Maria. So Maria works with people with binge eating. And I know you were coaching around other things before. So maybe tell us a little bit, about how your clarity sort of came around that.
Thanks, Amy. So I would say that my journey to coaching was full of contradictions until I actually took this course. So I came from the corporate world and then transitioned to coaching before starting with Amy. And I knew that that Spanish spoke to me, but I was learning Italian instead of investing in Spanish. So I took a number of different certifications because I thought that I needed the ICF credentials and, all the other things that we're sort of taught and our thinking gets in the way about. But at the end of the day, I always went back to Amy and was a follower of Amy for a long time. And the irony of my whole journey is that Amy actually introduced me to the 3 principles to stop my own binge eating habit. And yet I was investing in coaching opportunities elsewhere. So when Amy started her Change Coach training, I was reading some of your, I think it was like a blog post, and you were talking about how your husband said, why would you not invest in yourself? Why wouldn't you invest in this opportunity? And that's where I was. I had some sort of thought in my mind that since I had invested, since I had so much experience, there was nothing more to learn. But what I realized throughout the whole experience is that it was exactly what I needed to get out of my own way. So after this and throughout the Change Coach training, what I realized is that it really didn't matter how good or bad I labeled myself as a coach. That if everybody is healthy and we're all just sharing this understanding, that they will get what they need. The client will get what they need out of the conversation and out of the understanding when it's their time. And I think before going into this course, I put a lot of pressure on myself to help, to be of value, to justify having a business, to justify my price, to justify selecting my clients, to justify what hours I would set for myself. Because at that point in my coaching journey, I thought I needed to demonstrate all of this value to the clients. Mm-hmm. But if you're operating from a place of health and you see and from this understanding, you see people's health, you realize there's nothing perfect to say. There's nothing that you can say that's wrong, that the clients that you're supposed to work with come to you just as other people have shared, right? We don't know where we're going to get our clients, no matter how fancy of a website we have or how much word of mouth. And so you're able to get out of your own way and actually listen. And when you listen and ask questions, not from a place of knowing, but from a place of curiosity, everything changes. Everything changes for you as a coach, but everything changes for the client as well. And so naturally through this journey, I got more connected to myself and what I actually wanted to do, because I no longer had the pressure of having meeting some sort of quote unquote expectation that was, made up somewhere with those talking teeth that Amy uses about what type of coach I needed to be, should be, what that needed to look like. And I just got to be the coach that I wanted to be. And so through the journey, then I was able to share my story, be brave enough to share my story, and then work with people who also have the same experience. And their journey looks a little bit different than mine. But the only thing I have to do is show up, listen, ask curious questions, because they have all the answers. They truly are healthy. They're not binge eaters. They just see themselves as binge eaters right now. Mm-hmm. And so the impact of this practice was on me personally first, and then it was on the client. And I would say it's not only on our clients. I mean, it affects every type of relationship that we have in our lives, right? So friendships and personal relationships at home, this is something that you just live and breathe. It's how you see the world, how you show up in the world, and people feel that and they naturally gravitate toward you.
I love that. Thank you so much. It really is like such a relief to not have to worry about the right credentials and the right things you're saying and the right marketing and the right certifications. I mean, And the truth of it is, in my experience, clients don't really care. We think they do, right? We think they do, but look at how people are just responding to you differently already when it's like, oh, here's Maria. She's a human being. She's been through this. All they want to know is that we can help. That's all they really care about. Even when they happen to be asking at times, oh, well, what are your credentials? All they don't care about credentials. They care about, can you help me? So that's what's so beautiful about how even the world is changing for us when people worry about starting a business or finding clients or all of that. It's like, if you have something that's just true and honest to share, people will hear it. And it is easier than ever to have that out and have a lot of people hear it. And all they want, yeah, is to know that that you see something in them. It's just that feeling they have. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, well, let's turn it over to questions. Anyone here, go ahead and raise your hand if you see how to do that, if you have a question. And it can be a question about coaching the profession in general, about my program. It can be a question for any of the coaches here, whatever's on your mind. Melissa.
Hi, thanks for taking. My question is about helping people who have like diagnosable mental illness, and what kind of problems that might present as a coach.
Yeah. So typically, I think most coaches would just not, most coaches would probably just refer that person out, or, it's up to the individual coach. And again, it's completely up to us to get to say who we want to work with, the kinds of issues we want to work around. So I know I used to feel like, well, what if someone comes and I have to say no, or I don't want to work with them? Like, we can just say no, so we get to call the shots. But when it is something like that, so if it just feels like it's out of your league, you can just refer it out. But the beauty about this understanding too, is what I've seen around this is so much less feels like it's out of my league. That doesn't mean I would still say yes to everything. So there will still be things all the time that I'll say, no, my friend over here, or now one of my coaches is better at that than I am, go to them. But I know that I could coach anyone with anything. And I have talked with people with bipolar and schizophrenia and all that. Again, that's not my thing. It's not what I want to do. But when we see their health, there's ways that we can have those conversations.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
yeah.
Typically coaches would kind of just, send that somewhere else, and kind of, you would know what you want to work around. But
do the coaches have different, I can sort of see that coaches have different specialties, kind of.
Usually, and not always, but yes, it's a great question too. So often, I always get a little nervous when people think that they have to find a specialty. Like, I'm an anxiety coach, or I'm a binge eating coach, or a career coach, because I think sometimes we can lead with our head when we do that, and we feel like we need it. So we, and what I see about a niche, as people call it, or a specialty, is it's kind of like a relationship. Like, it's kind of best when we just let it sort of find us in a way. Like, you can make a list of everything you want in a partner, but you're probably better off meeting the person and just knowing, okay, this feels right, And I think that's sort of how our specialty goes. So I started off doing a lot of fertility coaching because I was going through infertility at that time. And that's what I was passionate about. When that wasn't an issue for me, that changed, so it can evolve and change over time. There's a lot of benefits because you get to speak to a specific thing, but I think it's always kind of, in flux. Thanks. Isa.
Hello, I have a couple of questions. Firstly, I'd like to ask if any coaches from other countries did attend the course?
Yes. So this last year, the 2020 course was only about half North America. So Maria and Jennifer are both from Canada. Actually, Bill and Connie are in Canada as well. It's not a Canada only training, but it kind of feels like it. Dror's in the US, Claire's in the UK. So yeah, it's usually about half Canada and US and half different places.
Because I'm from Poland, and it is quite that I understand almost everything about in this course and the content you present, but I have troubles with speaking fluently, and I probably won't be able to attend the course until I have gathered this money. But I am worried that it could be a problem for me just to speak as fluently as others. And do you think it will be possible for me, for example, in a year or two, to attend this course and still have a good contact with all the participants?
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I think whenever you feel ready, you could do it anytime, because if you're concerned about your fluency becoming better, then that's going to start to happen over time. That's not stopping anytime soon. You're continuing to speak English and like get better at that all the time. And your fluency and this understanding gets to deepen. So it's kind of like, I always say to people, of course, do it when it feels right for you. But a lot of times I think people say, well, let me wait until I have all these things in place. Whatever these things are, whether it's speaking, better, or let me wait till I'm a little more free of my habit, or let me wait till this happens in life. It's just a good thing to kind of look at, because a lot of times we think we need to be a certain place. And man, if we can just keep deepening in this understanding, that does so much for us.
Thank you very much. I will try to practice my English on a daily basis, but I think that it will take some time more for me to make it more fluent. The other question I have is how the course does expand during the week. What time usually the classes are, and is it something like in the little school of big change that we have some kind of lessons to attend by ourselves in a different time? So how does it look? I don't know.
Yeah, great question. So because it is all over the world, the timing tends to be pretty similar to what we have in the Little School of Big Change, because that just hits most of the time zone check marks. So our live events tend to be, like 9 to 5 kind of Eastern time, US time. And so that's the evening for people in like Europe and UK. Just because that kind of is the time that fits most. There's not a lot of stuff to watch or do in between, but there's live things. Like I mentioned, roughly every other week in between those 3-day trainings, there's something. We're doing a webinar, we're meeting as a group, we're going through the school together. So yeah, there's about 90 minutes every other week. And then often people are coaching. So I really encourage you to be having coaching conversations. I'm not policing that. You don't have to turn in hours or anything, but I'm connecting you with people if you want to have those conversations and practice. And then I do offer feedback, so at 2 different times, at the very end and then toward the beginning of the course, you get to send me a recorded session and I give you personal feedback and stuff. So there's that as well. Cool. Okay. Bruna.
I'd like to add to that question, because it helped me too, not just as English second language. Getting the recording of everything really helps.
Yeah.
Not just on the language, even stuff that I missed something, I want to listen to it again. I want to listen to this session again. I went back several times, and like the school, having access to all of the sessions recorded is a great little technical thing of the program.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. So yes, everything's recorded, especially now since we're doing it all virtually out of necessity. It's nice and easy to record everything, and you get to keep it forever. So yes, people can go back and like rewatch things anytime. Okay, let's go to Bruna.
Hi, Amy. My first question is to do with my mind talking at me. So it's just like, oh, I'm too young to do this. So I'm 25. I graduated from university. I did philosophy and then a few years of marketing, but didn't really find myself. And I'm now feeling called to do this. So that's the mind question. And then the second question is if it is the course once per year or twice per year, and can it be financed and everything? Because I saw there's like the first payment in January, and what's your question?
So I'll speak to the logistical one first. So yes, I do this once a year. So it's always in January to May. So after this year, the next one would be in 2022. Is that what year we're in? Yes. So 2021 will be the only one for next year. There are financing options. So it's the cost. I don't think I said this. The investment is $9,000 total, but there's different ways. You can pay it up front. You can do it over 3 payments, or you could do a $1,000 deposit, and then we could do a payment plan after that. So typically, yeah, a lot of people do the deposit, and then a payment's not due until into January.
Mhm.
So too young. Everyone's like, everyone here is like, are you kidding me? I wish I was 25 starting this right now. I usually hear people concerned that they're too old, not too young.
Like no one would take me seriously or anything like that. And obviously like without the psychology degree, but I guess it's like, cause I'm in Brazil right now. But I think that's why everyone will just ask me like, oh, why don't you have a psychology degree? But that's also my mind talking. So I know it's just
Yeah, and I get it. I understand that. And I know in different cultures in different places, like the US is probably in a different place with coaching in general, even within the US, where Dror is in LA, everybody's a coach. Or I am in the Midwest, nobody's a coach. So even within countries, there's a lot of differences. But one thing that's so amazing too, first, your mind will pick that up. Your mind will say, oh, here's what people will think. My mind had a field day with this because I had just gotten a degree, and all my academic friends were going to think I was a total quack for becoming a coach, But the thing is, like, it's just funny about a mind in that way. Like when, you hear that, it's your mind worrying about it, and you do what feels right. And what almost always happens is your mind shuts up pretty soon. Your mind's like, oh, okay, this wasn't actually a thing. And I think for sure that would happen around this. And also, again, even if there's things locally where you are, where there's a certain people would think you should have a degree or something, remember that what's available to us is anyone in the world that has the technology to have a phone or a computer that speaks your language. That's your client base. It's gigantic. And so, in the Little School of Exchange, we have people from like 45 countries at this point, which is amazing. So even if there's a little thing happening in Brazil or whatever, man, there's so much bigger.
That's true. Thank you, Amy.
I think people would be blown away by the fact that you're 25. They'd be like, wow, this woman, I should listen to her.
Thank you. And how many hours are we committing per week? Or it's the 9 sessions total throughout the course. And then there's every other week. So yeah.
Every other week, it's roughly 90 minutes.
Okay.
So like a webinar or a call, that's about a 90-minute call. So that's just kind of, what to figure.
And if I have any other questions after this, do I come to you or do I come to someone helping you? Or?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to have a conversation with you about it anytime. So just reach out to me and we'll schedule something.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Julie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julie.
Hi.
So logistical question. And so this sounds like it's the first time you'll be doing it online?
No, last year I did as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. How does it work then in terms of like how much, I don't want to say attention, but how much intimacy, does each student have like a coach that's assigned to them? Do I need to get my own coach, to do the program? Like just some of those kind of logistical questions.
Yeah. So, and the coaches can speak to this too, maybe a little bit. It is online. It's a relatively small group. We come to get very close and know each other very well and love each other a lot through this time. So when we're together for 3 days straight, it's, and it's not a giant group of people. We're doing a lot of coaching with each other, practice coaching with each other. So we really kind of get to know each other that way. So one thing that I do for people who want it, which is most people usually, is pair you up with other people in the program to practice your coaching. Okay. I really love when you guys find other people who don't know anything about this, because that's great practice. But just to get, some of the basics down and be having these conversations, everyone can get paired with people. And then at some point we'll kind of switch the pairing so you can kind of have a buddy coach that way. And then there's more available, of course, if you wanted to have a personal coach through this, one of the change coaches, who's graduated from the program, you could hire them to do that. But, most people do really well just with our intimate group and then kind of having their buddy coach.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So last year, we did meet in person in January, but because again, half the group is always wherever they are in the world, there was always a virtual option. So we had half the group kind of Zoomed in virtually in January, and then half of us were live in Nashville, Tennessee. And then all hell broke loose and we went all online after that. So that's how we'll be doing it this year.
And I'll add to that too, Amy. We did it on site. We were a couple of years ago, so we were there in the Midwest, and that was lovely because we could go to lunch and bond and everything. But what I'll say about Amy and her coaches, if any of you have worked with Amy, she is so available that the time we had on site was really great. But I felt like Amy was in my back pocket the whole time we were going through it, because we started coaching as we were in the program. Anything that came up, it was like she was right there. It was like she was my next door neighbor. So I wouldn't be concerned at all that it's virtual.
Thank you. That's why I do keep it small. It's really important to me, to be available for that kind of stuff. I think that personal feedback, and I get that this is a big investment. It's a big thing. So I'm not gonna, kind of pass people off to, even though other coaches could do an amazing job at that. Like, you can reach out to me anytime during this program, no matter where you are or who you are, and we'll talk. Cool. Thanks, Phil. Okay, Rebecca. I can't hear you, Rebecca. I'm not sure if I see that you're unmuted. Oh, there you go. No, there might be an issue with the microphone on your computer. Let me go to the next one and then see if you can work it out. We'll come back to you. Gabby.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Start my video too. So I have a couple questions. I know we've talked before, and one of my questions has to do with someone, I think Deborah just asked a question in the chat. I had a very similar question, like the balance of teaching and coaching together, and how much time you would spend coaching a client versus having conversations and coaching them through something. So yeah, that's my first question.
So teaching, what do you mean by the teaching piece of that?
I guess so I've already started coaching a couple people. And the one that I've been working with the last few weeks, a lot of it's been a combination of me sending her like a couple helpful articles or posts or a podcast, but then also just a lot of conversations in either text-based or person to person. Mm-hmm. And then with my next client that I'm going to be starting in December, in my conversations I've had with her, I was like, wow, like there's a lot, like she could benefit from learning about this understanding than as opposed to just having conversations about it. And I think for me, it's like whenever I've had transformation in my life, there's been a lot of like learning on my part. Like I've immersed myself in reading or listening or studying, and then coaching came later.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great question. I guess for me, I just don't see a huge distinction. I totally understand what you're talking about, but I think maybe it's just a difference in sort of how we work in this way is truly, it's like we go in with no agenda. We go in, all we know is a lot, but it's what we know of what's true of that human being. We don't know what they need. We don't know what they're going to need. Don't know the right thing to say or the right thing to give them, but in that process of just being there with them and in that back and forth dance, it all becomes clear. So, so to me, the distinction between teaching and coaching, I'm not even sure when I'm teaching versus coaching. I mean, I could make a guess, but what I'm trying to say is the line, there's not a big a big line there. It all just feels like we're in this dance. And you're totally right. What you said is my experience as well. So sometimes it's like, and especially early on, when I was coaching early on, it was a lot more, go read this and let's talk about it. And now I don't do that so much because I just dive into the conversation, but that's probably just, a lot of years of experience. But there's no right or wrong way to do it. And there's always some mix, I think, of both.
Okay, that makes sense. And then my other question is, I'm still thinking through and trying to understand the difference between this deeper transformative coaching versus mindset coaching and kind of getting in and tinkering with your psychology, because I have found it so beneficial to get in and be like, oh, wow, like I can change some of my beliefs about myself and the world. And I've changed my beliefs on all kinds of things in the past. And, taking things that were subconscious, making them conscious, and then, they go back into the subconscious, and like I've benefited from that. And so even in my coaching of other people, I find myself toggling between kind of a deeper transformative recognizing thought for what it is, but then also being like, okay, and maybe we can tinker with our thoughts a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you asking if that's okay?
I think what I'm struggling with is like, well, do I need to use these formal tools and make sure my clients understand these formal tools that I've pulled from different mindset coaches? And like, do they need to be doing journaling exercises every day so that they can stay on top of their mindset so that they can achieve their goals?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you for sure that they don't need that. Now, that doesn't mean it isn't helpful. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean a particular person won't really benefit from that. So for again, because there's a difference between kind of talking about two different approaches, not even really approaches, but two different ways of viewing human beings, which I think is mindset versus what we're talking about. There's a difference between that and then being right there in real time with the human being and seeing what makes sense for them, So in the big picture, in general, like we don't need to fix something if we can see that it isn't broken. And again, there's a million beautiful, fun tools in life. So we can pick them up and play with them and do whatever we want with them. But I can just say for sure they don't need it because I don't do a lot of that stuff. And I see remarkable change with the people I work with. So it can't be a need, but again, it might be beneficial in a moment. But in terms of your work in it, because I've been there, I was trained in all kinds of heavy stuff. And then I came across this, changed my own life dramatically. And it didn't make sense quite to coach, in that old way anymore. But that's still what I did all day, every day, because I didn't, so and many people go through that. There's just a transition that kind of happens. And I think the more deeply we see things, it probably will just, naturally make a little bit less sense to do some of that heavy lifting stuff. And there's no rush. If you want to keep doing it, if you'll do it as long as it makes sense, we're just doing the best we can to help people. So there's no rush, there's no right or wrong. But what I've seen with a lot of people is the simpler and deeper things look, that's just where it makes sense to go in the conversation more often.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think like a lot of the mindset stuff, the coaches that I've followed in the past, they're very focused on becoming a 7-figure coach and scaling their business and using all these mindset tools to achieve any goal they want. And I love the ambition, and I find that exciting and interesting and fun, and especially if it comes from a place of excitement as opposed to expectation. But then I wonder, like, could I really coach people to be insanely financially successful, and even myself be really financially successful if I'm coming from this relaxed place,
Yeah. I would be asking the other question. Again, that's just what comes up for me. Like, can we willpower and rah-rah and thought manipulate to it? I'm sure people do.
Yeah.
Is it easy? Is it natural? Is it deep and lasting? Is it sustainable? I just don't see it. And I have seen over and over and over again, Gabby, that The more we relax into who we are, you have amazingly wise and profitable and ambitious and fun thoughts and ideas that come through you, that don't come from anything we have to tweak or manipulate. It's like we open up to this, the biggest well of innovation and creativity and new thought that any of us can possibly imagine. It is our design. It is our design. And I get it, because, you know, when we're kind of coming at it from the top down or the outside in, we question whether that's our design. We don't really see that that's our design. So it looks like we need to, you know, make ourselves think this certain way to get that result. And you're absolutely right, again, that it has some benefits. Everything has some benefits, but it's just a totally different way of, I think, getting to the same place, probably a better place.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And I'm happy to talk more about that. I know it's a big question, you know, so we can talk off of this if you want, and
Okay.
kind of look at that more. Okay, so I know we're at time, but I'm going to go through the hands that are up. And if anyone has to drop off, obviously feel free. We're recording, but I want to make sure to answer as many questions as possible. Even if your hand isn't up, I'll hang on here a little bit longer. And then again, if you want to talk further, any of you, just let me know. You can reach out to me anytime, and I'm happy to have deeper conversations about this stuff with anyone. Okay, Tammy.
Hey. Hi, Amy. Thanks for
Hi.
having this webinar today. You've answered, well, when I originally raised my hand, you've since answered a little bit of some of my questions. So I'll just piggyback a little bit on what Gabby said, because it's been about 1.5 years since I went through the program. So I can't exactly remember the approaches you took, but a lot of coaching tools involve kind of extracting to understand where the client's head is, you know, their beliefs, their values, and that sort of thing. But if a client comes with something, and you touch on a lot of things like anxiety and addictions, and you get a lot of that. But what about the folks that say, and like Gabby, one of her examples was, well, she didn't say it specifically, but I gathered, you know, if a client comes and says, well, I'm really stuck in my my business, I'm trying to make more money, but I just don't feel like I can, you know, get ahead, and I don't know what to do. I'm not sure, how does this type of coaching, since it really does feel like a mix of kind of questions and teachings, how do you handle that? Because I just don't recall.
Well, there isn't an off the shelf kind of like way we handle it. But if that person were sitting in front of me and they're saying, I'm stuck, I want something I don't have, and I'm stuck, what I know is that they're caught up in thought that looks absolutely real to them. They're suffering, they're stuck, because stuck is not a feature of the human design. We are never truly stuck, but our psychology feels very sticky at times. Our thoughts feel very sticky, you know? So I would just enter into a conversation with that person. Again, I know that's kind of a unsatisfying answer sometimes from the outside, but truly that's where the power in this is. I don't pretend to know what anyone can or should do in their life. And I don't think any of us should, but you know, and they know. So it's almost this really fun game, you know, of like, ooh, they know what they want. They have a complete ability to have it, yet something in their head is telling them they can't. Let's talk about that, and let's tease that apart and see what we see.
So then, as part of your coaching with them, more of a series of questions to figure out where they're stuck. That's where I'm a little confused as to what the approach is.
Yeah, because there's not really an approach, but where we're coming from is insane curiosity. No agenda, right? No we're going to get you here, like just insane curiosity. Like, oh my gosh, you say you're stuck? Like, tell me about that. And again, this is not a strategy. Don't copy this or anything, but I'm genuinely curious. And I want all my coaches to be genuinely curious. Wow, what do you think you think something in the world truly has you stuck? Let's look at that, because we know that it isn't out in the world. We know that they're caught up in their own thinking. So yes, there's a lot of questions, but sometimes there's a ton of questions. Sometimes there's almost no questions. It truly is like being responsive to the moment of what occurs. And that's because, again, think about this. If we're 100% fluent in Spanish, if you're fluent in Spanish and you're going to talk to someone who isn't, you probably don't want to come in with like a really hard strategy of like, okay, I'm going to ask him these questions. I'm going to do this. You know Spanish. You're not concerned at all. You just want to get in the head of the person who doesn't know Spanish. And in real time, you're going to point them to things that make sense in real time. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes it might occur to you to read a book with them. Sometimes it might occur to you to practice some verbs, to ask them questions. It's always going to change.
Because thank you for that, because my understanding, my armchair coaching at this point has always been through questioning.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm now thinking is through the questions, and obviously they're going to have the realization for themselves, but is the idea that it really comes down to their thinking? I mean, from my life it does, but is that where we're wanting to get them? I mean, it's I don't know how to phrase it any better than that.
What do you mean wanting to get them?
To get them to the place where they understand it's their thinking that's kind of creating this reality that they're living in, and that's also going to help them either get to where they want to go or remove the blocks.
I mean, yeah, that's true. So I wouldn't say that's what my number one goal for a client is. My goal for a client is for their freedom, period. I don't really care how it happens, but I know that the only thing in the way of freedom is thought that looks real, experience that we've identified with as true and real. So, the more we see that, that's where the more we deeply, absolutely know. When we look at anyone, oh, I see what's going on. This is a person that has available to them everything they need, but there's some thoughts and feelings and psychology moving through them that they're grabbing and they're calling mine and they're clinging to. When we see that, it's just, I guess, if we had to put words around it, I guess our job or our agenda is to just help them see around that.
Okay. With the understanding, which is, I think, universal to all coaches, that they have it already within them to solve their own issues or move past, or however you want to phrase it.
Yeah.
And you're saying in this type of coaching that it's a matter of getting them to see that they're really right now in a place of thought about what they're stuck in.
That
and
happens.
Once they can realize that, their own answers, whether it's internal wisdom or whatever you want to call it, will guide them the rest of the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm clear. Thank you for explaining that 20 different ways.
No worries. Thank you.
Okay.
It's always just funny because it's hard to say, like, here's what we're doing, here's what it's about. And, I just get sensitive to that because I don't know what it's about. It's about freedom. But what you said is right on. You know, because you've been around this, that they do have what they need. And it's only experience that we're clinging to, thinking this thing is us, that holds us back. So however that looks or feels or shows up in a moment, that's just what we do.
Got it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Martin.
Hi,
Martin.
can you hear me?
Yes, I
Can
can
you-
now. It's a little bad of a connection, but I think we might have it. Maybe. No, maybe not. No, you're freezing, Martin. So let me come back to you. We'll see if it clears up in a little bit. Let me try Rebecca again, and we'll see if we can hear Rebecca.
Can you hear me now?
Yay.
I had my speaker on. Anyway, I keep forgetting my questions. How many hours do you work a week, Amy?
Do you really want to know?
Like 100?
I work a lot, and I honestly, I know this sounds so incredibly cheesy, but I just, this is my hobby and it's my work. So I don't want to make it sound like people have to be like, doing this all the time like I am, but I work quite a bit.
Okay.
I love it. I'm always thinking about the next podcast
Yeah.
episode or the next Ask Amy or that kind of stuff. It doesn't feel like work, but it's,
Right.
Yeah.
And I get that. And I'm just curious because, the job I have now, we're required to work almost 50 hours a week. I've put in more than that on a lot of occasions. And,
yeah,
I know I don't want to continue with this job. So my question really kind of goes towards some of the coaches that have had careers that they were transitioning is like, how many hours can you invest in one or the other when you do have a job that requires so much time?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll let, if any of you coaches have had that sort of transition, I had it too, but it's been a while, so I'll speak to it a bit. But if you guys have, let me know kind of how you did that. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The way I look at it is I just love so much what I'm doing. I'm not even aware of the time frame. It's so fulfilling, and it's very different than other kind of work in that way. Were you thinking that you wanted to transition out of what you're doing or just do coaching in addition?
I want to get out of what I'm doing, but I can't afford to right now. So yeah,
Well,
so it would have to be a transition initially. So
what's so great about it is coaching, moving into coaching is an easy transition from what you're now doing in terms of time. You can give it the time you want to give it and not more than you want to give it. So I'm not sure that would be an obstacle. In my mind, it isn't.
Right, and it probably just is for me right now because, you know, I can't even pay for the course unless I have this other job. So, you know, in order to do that, I've got to work almost 50 hours a week.
What do you do now?
I'm a bakery manager at a grocery store.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, well, you say that, but it has been. But it's not the direction I want to go. Keep going.
Oh, I love that you're looking in a new direction. Just explore it and look more and get all your questions answered. Know that it's a fit for you and you'll do fine.
So just another question for Amy, then a clarification on the financing, because, you know, I've put all my money into my new condo. You said there is a deposit and then you work out some payment plans.
Yeah, there's a, it's $1,000 deposit, and then there's a standard payment plan that's 3 payments. So one is in January, one's in March, and one's in May. So that's that option. And I'll just say too, you know, in terms of payment plans, I know it's a crazy time for a lot of people. I'm willing to talk about different arrangements if that's helpful for anyone.
For what it's worth, I just kind of feel like, you know, yeah, I could wait another year. I just feel like it needs to be now, you know, and that I've gone through so much in the last 2 years that, yeah, I'm sure I could scrape up something, you know, to get through this.
I love that, you know, and I love, just like Connie said, and this is how I did it too. I had a full-time job when I started coaching, and you really can kind of just get your feet wet doing it, you know, a night or two after work or on a session on a Saturday or something. And it just kind of builds on its own and kind of hits a certain point. I know that sounds sort of vague when you're just sitting at step one, you know, the beginning of it, but it is amazing. I don't know any careers that are more flexible than this in terms of being able to do it from your couch, in terms of being able to do it with people all over the world, anytime that works for you. You know, it's really great in terms of that.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, what I'm getting from all this is that part of what I loved about my job for so long was that I really believed all the hype that they cared about us as people, that COVID really woke me up to, and other experiences woke me up to the fact that no, we are just numbers and we're highly replaceable. And they've done such a great job of advertising the fact that they care about us. What I see with this, what I see about the possibilities with this is because you guys really are helping people. You know, we're not just numbers. We're not just all that. You're really making true differences in lives, and how great that would be to be able to go to work and really know that you're making a difference. So, I mean, I do love making bread. I really do. And that was a job that I kind of fell into accidentally, and was like, wow, you know, bread is the food of life, but it only goes so far. And really it's just, oh, how much can we make out of this? And, you know, so thank you all for finding this path.
Yeah, thank you. I just can't say enough. It is the most fulfilling thing in the world. You know, it really is. And like I said earlier, like, especially now, I think it's just so
more
rewarding to know that we're pointing towards something that is not full of opinion, not full of dogma. You don't have to think my way. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to be any way other than how you are. We're just going to look at who we really are beyond all of these opinions and thoughts and worries. And yeah, it's so fulfilling. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Amy, if I can say one more thing to Rebecca, First, I think you can choose how much you want to work. I'm like Amy, I love to work, so I work a lot. But if you take my wife, she was a teacher and teachers, coaches. She works now probably 1/3 of what she used to work before, and she makes double the money, and she's way happier by being, a principal's coach. And especially in the way that Amy designed the program, it's really easy to transition into that while you're doing your job. You don't need to leave your job. And I think it would help you because it helped me with that pressure of the thought, I really want to get out of this job. It's going to help you what you're doing now. So the transition is just going to happen. You're not going to need to kind of like, it would help you even with what you do now, in instead of mine. And that makes the transition natural whenever it happens. You choose that too, So
cool. Thanks. Yeah, it really kind of does speak to I know sometimes it can feel, and again, I know it's a time investment, it's a money investment for sure. And sometimes we have this way, I know I did, of thinking, oh, it's another thing I'm adding on my plate. It's going to take time from other things, but it is going to take some time. But, too, like everyone here has shared, like for us to learn this in order to pass it on, we get freer. We get happier. Like my husband says, like, you're kind of grumpy. Why don't you go do some professional development thing? Go invest in your business, because the more I have to just see this deeply to be better at what I do, I feel better. Everyone around me benefits, so and I know that kind of sounds too good to be true, but it just is so opposite from how most things in the world work. We sign up for a college course and it's like, oh, well, I know I'm going to get something from it, but it's going to take time and energy and effort. And there's something around this, like Dror said, that it's like the deeper we look at this, the lighter and better we feel, and the more possibility we feel. When things look tight and sticky, we see around that. It's, again, we're cheating. This is like a total, it shouldn't be this easy. It shouldn't be this good to be able to do this, but it is. Okay, Tracy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Thank you. I'm way down in Melbourne, Australia, and so I'm wondering, as far as the course is concerned, whether I'm able to do everything directly, or would I have to be up in the middle of the night to be able to actually do the course? Have you had anyone from here before, and how have they got around that problem?
Yes. Yes, unfortunately, because we want the whole group together, so I'm always willing to catch up with people, have calls with you, and kind of catch you up if there are certain things that you can't do along with the group because of the time change and because of all of that. So you'll get my support and help through it. But for your benefit, I would want you to be at the 3-day trainings the whole way through and all of that. And yes, what they do, not easy, but they just kind of start changing their sleep schedule a week ahead of time, and they stay up and do it early. Yeah. So I'm not sure exactly what the timing is, but it starts.
Well, it's Thursday morning at the moment, 10 to 9, Thursday morning.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll start.
So that's 16 hours ahead.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask was that I worry that you go through the course and that because you're being everybody's very positive about, yes, it'll happen to you. You just worry that you're the one that it doesn't actually happen, and that you're talking to people, because a lot of people invest in the way that they feel and why they can't get beyond things.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, like they perhaps not able to lose weight, and they have their reasonings as to why they can't. And so therefore, if you take that reasoning away from them and say, oh, it's just your thoughts, do they then feel a bit rudderless and not sure how to move on from there?
I love your question. It's a great question. The thing is, like, if we just said, oh, that's just your thoughts, they probably would. But really what we're doing, there's two parts to this. What we're doing is getting super wise and creative and being in this human to human dance with someone where we know they can lose weight or do anything they want. We know this about them. We know that all of their suffering around why can't I or why isn't it working, we know that's their mind telling them that and them believing it. So in that back and forth human dance of a conversation, it doesn't tend to, sometimes people can take offense to anything, but it's so loving. We're seeing their health. And so it's like if you're teaching a child something, you're teaching a child, and the child says, I'm terrible at math, I'm never going to get it. And this kid is okay. They're going to be fine. And you're just seeing them with so much love, and you're helping them see step by step in a way that they're ready for. No, you can get it. Let's just do this. See, look, you got that. It's that sort of thing. Does that make sense? So it's not like just rip out the Band-Aid. It's not like, oh, we're all just suffering because of our thinking. It's really that sort of intimate relationship.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then something else I wanted to say, and I can't remember right now, but around what you said, let me think. So what if you're talking with someone and they're like just defending their problem and all of that kind of stuff? Again, I see this concern a lot, and I had it a lot myself. And it tends to happen when we kind of haven't done it yet. It's a really logical concern, like, oh, this will be hard and people might not want to hear what I have to say and all of that. But again, in real time, as you keep deepening in this, and then you see what it's like to just have a conversation with a person, so much of that resistance that we're afraid of and all of that kind of the defensiveness, it just doesn't come up. And if it does come up occasionally, we can just meet it with love. And again, I just think of like a child saying, I'm never going to learn to ride a bike, and they're sure of it. They're convinced and they're angry and they're saying, I'm never going to get this bike thing. But you know so deeply that they're going to figure out how to ride a bike that it doesn't even sway you. It doesn't phase you, you're like, oh, you'll be okay. Like, so it's when we have doubts too, that it becomes a bit of a mess. But what we come to see is, like, we come to see what's true of people so clearly and so deeply that you just know they're going to be okay. And then it makes our job much easier.
Amy, I wanted to say something. What's so great about this? We've helped everybody we've worked with lose weight, but that's not where the juice is or the fun.
Yeah.
As you say, it's all about people discovering who they really are and letting life live them from there. And so we've taken people much further than just this desire to lose weight. And that's where the fun is too, because as they deepen, we deepen. So we love it. I think it's the best decision we ever made to do this. Yeah.
It's a great point, really, that everyone comes in thinking they want something in particular, and that's beautiful. They're suffering around something. That's what they think they want. And we kind of come to know, oh, honey, just wait. We'll talk there. Don't worry. But you just wait. That's not what you're really here for. That's awesome. Okay, Chris.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Hi. It's cool to speak to you after watching your videos for so many years. But yeah, I've got a couple of questions. I've got a particular interest in working with people around the area of abuse. And I know I haven't got any concerns about whether the principles work, because it's worked for me. It's just, I think it's similar to the question Tracy asked about, like, defensiveness and things like that. And I noticed on the chat that Maria said that she wouldn't say to a client about the 3 principles unless they mentioned it when they came to see her. So my question is, if there is someone who's in that situation in their life where they are, or they have dealt with like serious abuse, and as a coach, I wouldn't want to say to them, like, oh, here's this understanding.
Yeah.
How do you like mix that in to sort of, you know, I guess it's just connecting on a human level. Maybe I've answered my own question, but
Yeah, no, it's connecting on a human level, letting your own wisdom in the moment and their own wisdom in the moment kind of guide the session. So we think we're the coach, they're the client, we're relating on a head level, but truly, like, there's something deeper that comes up that guides the session. I know that sounds sort of vague and out there, but so when you're with that person, again, you will be seeing their health. You'll know exactly what's possible. And from that feeling within yourself, you'll just start to do little nudges. You'll start to point them in directions and ask them questions. Like, what if, despite all your trauma and abuse, there's a part of you that's totally well and untouched? What if? That's my favorite way to kind of soften the defensiveness. Is it's, you know, I'm not telling you this is how it is. I'm just saying, hey, do you want to explore this with me? So little by little, in that exploration, curiosity kind of way, you get so far that way.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool. I think that answers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's a great question though. And I saw some other people on the chat just even around the principles and that type of thing. And just to say, yeah, like in this, and if you've been through the Little School of Big Change or seen me coach other places, you know, it's not a, let me tell you about this theory I know of, or let me tell you about these principles. It's just so in the moment, in real time with a person. And sometimes we can get a little caught up thinking that there's a framework and I should teach them the framework. And sometimes there's a time to, and a lot of times there isn't. And it doesn't really matter, because they feel, you know, we see their health and they feel that, and everything that needs to come out. It sounds so simple, I know, but in this back and forth conversation, it comes out, and it's all based on our grounding. When we absolutely know that they're okay, and that everything they're up against is their own experience that they're understandably tangled in, but it's moving, fleeting, safe experience. We can just have a conversation and just see where it goes. And we're not on this agenda to fix them or change something in particular without that agenda kind of weighing us down too. It's amazing what opens up and how infrequently people are defensive.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for sticking on so long. I apologize, or thank you for going over. I'm good. I could be here all day, but I really appreciate you guys sticking on, especially my panelists that stayed on to answer questions and for sharing your experiences. Thank you so much. And yeah, if anyone has questions that come up later or that weren't spoken to or anything, you can always just reach out to me and I'll be happy to either have a talk with you, email, whatever makes sense. So thank you guys so much, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. See ya.